So your quiz tomorrow is on sections 5.1 and 5.2. So for tomorrow, I would study the review and also study that Kahoot that we played in class. I posted the link on Canvas for you guys. Some of the questions are going to be like the ones from the Kahoot, so you can use that to study. So for number 1 through 8, we have to put it in standard form and name each polynomial by degree and number of terms. So what comes first in standard form? Which number? 5n to the 4th power. What comes next? Negative 9n to the 3rd power. And then? 3n squared. And then minus 5n. So the highest degree comes first, and then it just goes in descending order.
If you don't do that, do you get it wrong?
Yeah. So we're looking at the highest degree in order to classify it by degree. So our highest degree is 4. What do we call something to the 4th degree? That would be the number of terms. Quartic. Perfect. And then our number of terms, how many terms do we have? 4. So polynomial with 4 terms. Any questions here? All right, number 2. We only have 1 term, so it's already in standard form. How do we classify this by the degree?
Constant.
Awesome, constant. And how many terms do we have? 1 term, so it's a monomial. All right, number 3. Again, only 1 term, so it's already in standard form. How would we classify this by degree?
Constant.
Not a constant because we have that x there. What's above constant? What comes next? No. Linear. So if it's an x that doesn't have a number up top, it's linear. And then how many terms do we have?
1.
So what do we call it? Monomial. Awesome. Number 4. How do we put this in standard form? What has to come first? 3k to the 5th power, and then minus 10k squared. So looking at our highest degree, how would we classify this? By degree. Awesome. Quintic. And since there's 2 terms, it would be a binomial. All right, number 5. How do we put this in standard form? Awesome. We have to combine these 2 together since they're both n squared, so it would be negative 5n squared and then minus 7. So how do we classify it by degree? Awesome. Quadratic, because our highest degree is 2. And binomial, since there's 2 terms. All right, number 6. Only 1 term, so it's already in standard form. How do we classify this by degree? It's a monomial because there's only 1 term, and it's cubic because our highest degree is 3. All right, 2 more. What comes first to put this in standard form?
9x to the 4th power.
Awesome, 9x to the 4th power. And then?
8x to the 3rd power.
Awesome. And then?
7x squared
And then last?
plus 6x.
Perfect. So how would we classify this by degree? Quartic, because our highest degree is 4. And then our number of terms is 4, so a polynomial with 4 terms. All right, so number 8. What comes first? Negative 6x cubed. What comes next?
Negative 4x squared.
Negative 4x squared. And then?
Negative 4x.
Negative 4x, and then minus 1. So how do we classify this by degree?
Cubic polynomial with 4 terms.
Cubic, and then since there's 4 terms, we call it a polynomial with 4 terms. So for your quiz tomorrow, you have to know what these words are. You guys can use your notes, so make sure you have those 2 little boxes, the charts that tell you what your words classify it by degree, and your words classify it by the number of terms. You're not going to be given those words, so make sure you have it on your notes for your quiz tomorrow. All right, number 9. Describe the end behavior of each polynomial. Which term are we looking at here to help us describe the end behavior?
The x8.
The x to the 8th power. And we can ignore everything else behind it. So is this positive or negative? Positive. So what does that tell us about our right arrow?
It's the same.
The right arrow goes up, and then is it even or odd?
Yeah.
Even. So same direction or opposite directions? Same. So they go up and up. Tomorrow for the quiz, you'll have to use words. I think this one's multiple choice. So it'll give you like up and down, down and down. So it'll give you the options. So you just have to use words instead of doing the arrows. And just remember, the order matters. Which term are we looking at for number 10?
X to the 6th power.
Negative x to the 6th power. Everything else doesn't matter. Is this positive or negative?
Positive.
Negative x to the 6th power? It's negative. So does the right arrow go up or down?
Down.
Down. And is it even or odd?
Even.
Even. So did they go in the same direction or opposite directions?
Opposite.
Even.
Opposite.
Even means same. So we have down and down here. Any questions on these two? All right, next page. Which term are we looking at for number 11?
x7.
X to the 7th power. Is this positive or negative?
Positive.
So does the right arrow go up or down? Up. Is it even or odd? Odd. So do they go in the same direction or opposite directions? Opposite. So the left one goes up or down? Down. So we have down and up. All right, number 12. Which term are we looking at?
X
X to
to the 9th power.
the 9th power. Is it positive or negative?
Positive.
So what does that tell us about our right arrow? Goes up. And is it even or odd?
Odd.
It's odd. So do they go in the same direction or opposite directions?
Opposite.
Opposite. So does the left one go up or down? Down. So we have down and up.
Miss Carter?
Yes.
So why is the first arrow like down?
Because since it's odd, the two arrows go in opposite directions. So the right one is determined by whether it's a positive or negative. Since it's positive, the right one goes up, so then the left one, since it's opposite, has to go down. So always start with the right arrow, and then
Okay, thank you.
do the left one second. Alright, so let's look at number 13. Which term are we looking at here? 25x to the fourth power. So we have to look at the term with the highest degree, so that's the middle one here. Is it positive or negative? Negative. So what does that tell us about our right arrow? It goes down. And is it even or odd? It's even. So they go in the same direction or opposite directions? Same. So we have down and down. Alright, 14. Which term are we looking at? X to the sixth power. Is this positive or negative? So what does that tell us about our right arrow? Is it even or odd? So do they go in the same direction or opposite directions? Same. So we have up and up. Any questions about the end behavior?
Wait, do we have to write like down and down, or can we just put the arrows?
So if it's multiple choice, it's going to give you words. So it'll say like down and down. So just whatever direction your arrows are, that's what words you put. If it's not multiple choice, then you can just draw the arrows. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, let's look at 15. So to find our zeros, we just have to set each piece equal to 0. So we have x plus 5 is equal to 0, and x plus 3 is equal to 0. So how do we solve for x in our first equation? Subtract the 5. So what do we get for x? X is equal to negative 5. And what about the second one? What do we get for x? Negative 3. So we have to put those 2 points on our graph. So we go to the left 5 and to the left 3. So now we need to see how many x's are in our equation. 2. So it's an x squared graph. Is it positive or negative? Do any of these x's in our equation up here have a negative in front of it? No.
Miss Carter?
Yes.
How did you get the x2?
Because we have 1x and 2 x's. So it's an x squared graph. So we're just counting how many x's we have in our original equation. And none of them have a negative sign, so it's positive. So what does that tell us about our right arrow? That it's positive, so it goes up. And then, is this even or odd? Even. 2 is even. So do they go in the same direction or opposite directions? Same. So our ending arrows go up and up. So out of the point farthest to the left, we go up. Out of the point farthest to the right, we go up. Now we just connect our dots. Yeah, since there's 2, that's what makes it even.
Okay.
Good question. Any other questions on this one?
Why is negative 3 up?
So what makes it up and up, we just have to find what our zeros are, put those 2 points on our graph, and then we need to see how many x's do we have in our original equation. So we said we have 2. and none of them have a negative sign, so it's a positive x squared. So we're just looking in our original equation, in this equation here, do any of them have a negative sign in front? We're not looking at our answers for this part. So you can ignore this. All we did was put these on our graph. So we just want to see, do these have a negative in front? If it was like a negative x plus 5, that would be what we cared about. But none of them have a negative, so it is positive. So that's what makes this go up, and then since it's even, because we have two x's, the left arrow goes up also. Alright, let's do 16. So how do we find our zeros? We set each piece equal to 0. So x is equal to 0, negative x plus 2 is equal to 0, and negative x minus 5 is equal to 0. So x is equal to 0 is already solved for us. That's our first point. How do we solve negative x plus 2 is equal to 0? So if we get negative x is equal to negative 2, how do we find what positive x is?
Negative 1.
Divide by negative 1. Perfect. So x is equal to 2. We could also just add x on both sides, so then we would get x is equal to 2. So x is equal to 2. It's our second point. And then how do we solve for x in our third equation? Awesome. We add x on both sides, so negative 5 is equal to x. So x is negative 5. Now we need to see how many x's do we have in our original equation up here? We have 3, so it's an x cubed graph. Do any of them have a negative sign in front? Yeah. How many? 2. What do 2 negatives make? A positive. So this is a positive x cubed graph. So because we have 2 negatives make a positive, it's a positive x cubed graph. So what is our right arrow going to do? Right arrow goes up. What about our left arrow? Down. So our right arrow goes out of the point farthest to the right. Our left arrow goes out of the point farthest to the left. Now we just have to connect our dots. Alright, let's look at 17. How do we find our zeros? Set each piece equal to 0. So x minus 5 is equal to 0, x plus 3 is equal to 0. What do we get for x? Positive 5. And what about for the second one? Negative 3. So we put our points at positive 5 and negative 3. How many x's do we have here? 2. So this is an x squared graph. Do any of the x's have a negative in front? No. So it's a positive x squared graph. So if it's positive, what does that tell us about our right arrow? Goes up. And then since 2 is even, what does that tell us about our left arrow? Goes in the same direction. So we have up and up. Now we just have to connect our dots. Alright, let's look at 18. What are our zeros here? X is equal to what? Negative 1 and 4. So we put our points on our graph. How many x's do we have in our original equation?
Two.
2. Do any of them have a negative sign in front of it?
No.
No. So, what's our right arrow going to do?
Yeah.
It goes up, and then what about our left arrow? Up. So since it's even, they go in the same direction, so we have up and up. And we connect our dots. Any questions
Miss
here?
Bear.
Yes.
So if the x was negative, the right arrow will go down.
Yes, but not if like our answer is negative. If this had a negative in front, then it would be negative, and then it would go down. The right arrow would go down. So if it had a negative in front of the x in the original equation, then that would make this negative, which would make our right arrow go down. Alright, 19. Alright, what are zeros here?
Negative, yeah, negative 3, negative 4, and negative
-3, -4, -8. So we got to put those 3 points on our graph. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So how many x's do we have here? 3. Do any of them have a negative sign in front?
No.
No. So what's our right arrow going to do?
Up,
Right arrow goes up because it's positive. And what about our left arrow?
down.
Down because it's odd. So odd means opposite directions. So the left one goes down. So our left arrow goes out of the point farthest to the left, and our right arrow goes out of the point farthest to the right. And then we just connect our dots. Any questions here?
No.
Alright, number 20, last one. What'd you guys get for the x's?
1 times 0.
Awesome. X is equal to 0, x is equal to 1, and x is equal to 5. So we put our points on our graph. So we have a point at 0, 1, and 5. How many x's do we have in our original equation?
3.
3. So it's an x cubed graph. Do any of them have a negative sign in front?
No.
No. So what's our right arrow going to do?
Up,
Right arrow goes up, and what about our left arrow?
down.
Down, because they go in opposite directions, because it's odd. So our right arrow goes out of the point farthest to the right, our left arrow goes out of the point farthest to the left, and then we just connect our dots. Alright, so that's it for the review. Any questions? So our x cubed here comes from the number of x's in the equation. So we have 1, 2, 3. So yeah,